Right.
And so, in that situation, having a religion around it would be kind of pointless because there's nothing that religion could actually do. Similarly, that's one of the reasons I don't really think atheism is a religion, by my definition at least, because if there's one thing atheists are not, it's organized.
Yeah. We had an email just this weekend, and somebody said, what's your consensus opinion on free will? And Jeff D. answered and said, well, there isn't a consensus.
Right.
Here's what I think, and he proceeded to talk about that.
Yeah.
And so, that's pretty much how it is for almost any question you'd have. We have people who agree, with each other and everything, but I wouldn't say that we have a lot of consensus opinions on very much, except for things regarding separation of church and state and I guess the value of what we're doing here.
And there's stuff that a lot of us like to do together, like, go out to Threadgill's in South Austin at 6:30 p.m. after the show and hang out and have good conversations and talk and enjoy ourselves. But not everybody comes to that. I mean, likewise, there are some people who go out drinking, and I never do.
Yeah, at the Dog and Duck at 7 p.m. on Thursdays.
Yeah, I've been there one time.
Yeah.
We used to have a game night, and there have been occasions where a big movie release came up, like Religulous or Jesus Camp or The Passion of the Christ. That was fun.
Yeah.
And we all got together in a big group, and we went, and afterwards we went out for coffee and we talked about it. But I've actually had a fairly weird charge leveled against the atheist community of Austin recently that it is a cult.
Really?
And, yes, seriously. Well,
my significant other teases me about that. She says, you're going to go hang out with your cult friends.
You get it too, huh?
Yeah, it's funny. And now, so my son has picked that phrase up. So now when I get up to leave on Sundays, he's like, Mom, you going to have dinner with your cult friends? Like, yeah.
Oh, boy. But, I mean, I can't see a real cult joking about being a cult.
No.
Although I suppose it's possible, and I suppose that if the person who said I was a cult heard me saying that, they would say, oh, you're just joking about it to deflect suspicion.
Yeah. Well, actually, we're going to have an objective ruling today because my mother is in the studio audience today. And she is to report back to my significant other whether or not she thinks we're a cult. So.
Oh, okay. Well, it's okay. If she comes out with the wrong answer, then we will just jump her and tie her up and lock her in a dark room somewhere. But feel free to say whatever you want. It looks like Brian called back.
Yeah.
So, Brian, I apologize again for hanging up on you. Are you there?
Yeah, did I hang up on me though?
Yes, but it was an accident.
Okay, because my mom's in the background like screaming, so I have to go outside now because it's going crazy in the house.
Okay.
I
think she was, yes.
She's like, okay, why would they make up Abraham, Isaac? Do you think that's just a made-up belief? Like, I don't understand why someone would do that. She's all screaming in the background. So that was her question.
People have made up all kinds of stories. I mean, also from the same era, we have the Iliad and the Odyssey and like Gilgamesh. I mean, do people make those things up? Those are just as weird as the Bible.
Yeah. And the thing about that is that there's actually, there are ways of validating whether or not the stories that are in the Bible actually occurred. I mean, you can go back and look for confirming evidence through other sources. For example, there are some cultures that kept pretty good records. And the Egyptians actually were one of those civilizations that kept really good records. And so when you're talking about stories like, for example, the Exodus, you can go back and look at Egyptian records and find out if this large number of people passed through Egypt's borders when they're supposed to have done it. And
you would think that the Egyptians would notice that little detail when all their soldiers walked into the middle of a separated ocean, and then it crashed down and killed a bunch of them. You would think that there would be a little notation about that. Oh, crap, lost 20,000 soldiers today.
Yeah, and so, you've got a culture that meticulously records nomadic, herdsmen coming in to water their herds in their territory that, a band of 20, came in and watered at this watering hole or whatever. But they don't notice these thousands of people leaving, en masse, and all this other stuff that was supposed to have happened along with it. So we have the Egyptian records clearly say this didn't happen, because they certainly would have recorded that. Not only that, but there's no archaeological evidence to support the idea that they camped out in this wilderness for 40 years.
When you come right down to it, the Bible turns out to be a very regional-centered book. I mean, it's all taking place in this one little part of the Middle East, and then they make these vast claims like, and there was a big flood that killed everybody on Earth except for 8 people.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because people have gone through and dated when the flood was supposed to happen, something like 2000 something BC, and so during that time when supposedly a flood killed everybody in the world except for 8 people, there was a flourishing dynasty going on in China at the same time, which didn't get mentioned. And 100 years after the flood was when the pyramids were built. So it's like, okay,
right.
They must have reproduced pretty fast to get all those workers.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm very ignorant on the Bible because I haven't read it. I can't argue any cases because I haven't read it.
Well, you want some advice?
Huh?
You want some advice? Read it.
Advice?
Read it. I think there is nothing better an atheist can do than read the Bible and really understand. And if the Bible is too dry for you to read by itself, you can go to skepticsannotatedbible.com and get funny little comments in the margins.
Yeah, that's
or
very entertaining.
There's this new comic book coming out by R. Crumb.
Oh yeah.
Who's like a famous comic author and has just taken the book of Genesis and just written the whole thing, entirely unabridged and illustrated it. But I mean, illustrated it thoroughly, like all the really graphic parts and all the horrible violence and all the, all the sexy stuff, drawn out very explicitly. And I hear it's really interesting. So you might want to look that up. That's brand new.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, one thing that made me become atheist is when I was in high school, I knew a lot of gay people, and when I was a Christian, I would tell them, "You're going to hell. You're wrong. You chose to do this. Like you're going to hell." And then when I started getting knowledge, studying people's pattern, I realized it's not a choice. Maybe they're born like that. I don't think God's going to set himself for being born like that. That's one thing that made me contradict the Bible and wonder a lot. That's the one thing about homosexuality that made me wonder. Do you agree?
Of course.
Yeah.
Because I feel like gay people are nice people. They want to do what they do. They cannot help what they're attracted to, and they get ridiculed by Christians and all stuff. I think it's wrong. I think it's very wrong to do that.
Nor should they try to help what they can do, because I mean, if they're involved in something that they enjoy, which is not hurting anyone, then whether it's a choice or not, there's no reason they should stop.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to the extent that it is a choice, it's a choice I have an absolute right to make.
Mm-hmm. So you believe it is a choice, though?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think for some people they're born gay. Some people, I don't know. I think I've known a few women that probably did choose to be in a relationship with a woman. But as I said,
maybe they're just bisexual.
And that's legitimate too.
I mean, I think there are people who fall way at the straight end of the spectrum and way at the gay end of the spectrum, and there are people all in between who actually can, choose either way. And I think it's fine no matter what.
I agree, sir.
Good.
Okay.
I'm open-minded.
Anything else?
Great.
One more thing. Okay. Like I said, I watch you all the time on YouTube because I don't have your channel, and I think you're great. And in my opinion, the reason why I believe people believe in God is because they need something to believe in too, and they can't accept that when they die, it's just they died. Like mom's like, "Oh, I want to see my grandma when I'm in heaven." I'm like, Mom, I hope that is true, but it's probably not. Like, they need something to look up. That's what my believe in it.
Yeah, and to get back to what I said earlier, you know, if somebody has a belief that makes them feel good and you tell them it's not true, they can't help being offended. Of course they feel like you're trying to take something away from them.